Thank you, Chairman Bentz, Ranking Member Huffman, and thank you for the opportunity to address the committee. I have a few statements I want to make about H.R. 1437, the Black Vulture Relief Act of 2023. I was proud to introduce the Black Vulture Relief Act of 2023 with my friend from Florida, Representative Darren Soto, and I applaud the subcommittee for attaching my bill to today's hearing. This bill would allow farmers and ranchers to lethally take black vultures without a sub-permit. This is a common sense measure that responds to robust black vulture population numbers and rising rates of depredation on livestock. Because the black vulture is currently listed under the Migratory Bird Treaty Act, the federal permit is required to engage in lethal take of the bird. Permits are issued by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to states, and states issue sub-permits to producers. Sub-permits allow for 3 takes, with the option to go up to 5 in some states. This is not adequate, given the sheer numbers of threats that producers face from this abundant species. This bill would remove the requirement for a sub-permit, allowing farmers and ranchers to take black vultures as needed. This bill preserves the requirement for reporting of incidental take on the back end and allowing wildlife agencies to continue to monitor the species numbers. I am pleased to report that numerous groups are supporting this legislation, including the Tennessee Farm Bureau Federation, the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, the Tennessee Cattlemen's Association, the Florida Cattlemen's Association, and the Oklahoma Cattlemen's Association. I would particularly like to draw the committee's attention to a letter I received from the Tennessee Farm Bureau in support of H.R. 1437. In the letter, the Tennessee Farm Bureau Federation stated that, quote, "It should be a fundamental right for farmers to protect their livestock when threatened by predatory actions of black vultures, and we believe this legislation takes a vital step in the right direction," close quote. I wholeheartedly agree that it should be a right for farmers to be able to protect their livestock when threatened by black vultures, with a requirement for reporting as my bill requires. I have heard numerous horror stories from my constituents about how black vultures injure and kill pregnant cows and their calves in the most barbaric and gruesome ways. Indeed, I have experienced that on my own beef cow-calf operation. In addition to the unnecessary and cruel suffering livestock endure at the hands of black vultures, there is also a major financial impact to producers who suffer from black vulture depredation. My bill helps to stem those financial losses. I also want to address some of the concerns of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. I have reviewed the written testimony of Mr. Stephen Gerton, the Deputy Director for Policy at the Fish and Wildlife Service, and I was profoundly disappointed to learn that Fish and Wildlife is opposed to this bipartisan legislation. While I disagree with much of Mr. Gerton's written testimony, I want to focus on a couple of specific points I particularly disagree with. The Fish and Wildlife Service argues that annual reporting requirement is not sufficient. I have heard time and time again about increasing numbers of black vultures, and I firmly believe that a once-a-year reporting requirement is sufficient for monitoring population management while also balancing against overly burdensome reporting requirements for producers. Additionally, Mr. Gerton's written testimony states that, quote, "By authorizing take for individual producers without a permit, H.R. 1437 would also limit the opportunity for the service to recommend other mitigation methods which may be more effective in addressing and removing depredating vultures." I want to be clear on this point. There is absolutely nothing in my bill that limits the ability for the Fish and Wildlife Service to make recommendations regarding other mitigation methods for those affected by black vultures. I will, however, note that Mr. Gerton's testimony states that the Fish and Wildlife Service is open to working with me on this issue. I appreciate this offer and look forward to engaging with Fish and Wildlife on this important issue. In closing, I greatly appreciate this committee's leadership on the issue of black vulture depredation, and I yield back the balance of the time.